All right, today we're going to be doing kind of a crossover video. I'm going to be talking about melee characters as Edison decks. So let's get into it. First off, we've got Fox, of course. Fox is going to be Vayu Turbo. So that's basically for the obvious reason that it's kind of the best deck probably, but because of that, everyone knows how to play against it. And it's explosive on a level that looks like it should probably be from a future format, in the same way that Fox, like optimized Fox, looks like something that shouldn't be in Melee. And then the graveyard as like a resource pool kind of fundamentally undermines the mechanics of Yu-Gi-Oh! And that similar to how like movement in general in Melee does that. But yeah, you need to know this matchup is another reason that Fox is Vayu Turbo. Moving on, we've got Falco. Falco is going to be Diva Hero or Hero Frogs, anything that plays absolute zero, basically. These decks are characterized by being incredibly strong on offense with less focus on defense. But at the same time, dupe lock can lock you down like Falco's lasers, where it's like just a stall, because eventually you're gonna have to do something if you want to actually win. And again, just the graveyard in general as a resource pool kind of undermines the basic premise of Yu-Gi-Oh! In the same way that movement and melee isn't supposed to work like that. But yeah, these decks can brick harder than Vayu, basically, so that's a way to represent Falco being more of a glass cannon or just having more bad matchups than Fox. And in general, though, for some reason, Diva Hero, Hero Frogs, and Falco are all just cooler than Fox and Vayu Turbo. Like, that's just kind of a thing. They're just cooler for some reason. Moving on, we got Marth. Marth is Machina Fortress, or really any decks that are running Fortress. That's because they're both very strong of their own accord, but they also happen to hard counter some of the best other things in the meta. In Yu-Gi-Oh, that meaning Caius, Zero, and Stardust. So yeah, and then Fortress being resistant to Raikou, sort of, via its effect, is also kind of like Marth not being a fast faller, it just doesn't get comboed in the same way as other characters. And then again, they use the graveyard for speed. Fortress does that some, but not to the level of Vayu Turbo or Miracle Fusion decks. So yeah, that's kind of how like Marth's movement is more fluid. It looks less like it shouldn't be happening. Moving on, we've got Sheik, and this one's probably obvious if you actually play both Melee and Edison, but we are going to make the claim that Sheik is like pure Black Wings. Because yes, it definitely has more nuance than people make it out to be, but ultimately the game plan is pretty easy to understand. And they both basically work how the developers intended. Like more than any other character in Melee, Sheik, you can kind of just play Sheik with her normal attacks and get pretty far at a low level tournament. And then same with Black Wings, you basically just run all of the good cards in the deck. There's not really much like thought from the player. So yeah, it's easy for beginners to see some level of success. And yeah, they both have like a couple bad cards, or Sheik has like her side B, but they're ridiculously solid overall. And they basically gatekeep low tiers out of viability. Like there's certain decks that just because of Icarus, you just can't play them in Edison. And then same thing with Sheik, she just invalidates stuff. Moving on, we got Puff. Frog Monarchs is what I'm going to claim Puff is like for a few reasons. Number one, it can be really annoying to kill them sometimes, but also they die out of nowhere other times. It's a pretty straightforward game plan. You're going to summon Monarchs every turn, similar to you're going to just spam back air with Jigglypuff. But cards like Soul Exchange, enemy controllers, and then again, the Monarchs themselves, they all just delete things basically in a way that like every character has rest setups on them for the most part. Again, the dupe lock is like polarizing stalling basically, which is similar to Jigglypuff. Moving on to another character that's harder to kill, Peach, which is going to be Gladiator Beasts. Reason being, it can be very technical, but also has multiple viable play styles. It's more defensive and reactive to your opponent versus rushing them down aggro. War Chariot is like down smash in that it can just win individual games on its own. And the deck does run a lot of back row, which makes it kind of tankier. Captain Falcon. Captain Falcon is pure Lightsworn. Testicles stapled to the wall, all out explosive offense. So balls to the wall. That is Captain Falcon, and that is Lightsworn. All out offense, all gas, no brakes. Knee, like the knee is literally called the Knee of Justice, which is similar to Judgment Dragon. But similar to Black Wings, this is more technical than it looks in order to make it actually work. But the deck is known for its speed and flashiness, similar to Falcon. It's harder to play Falcon than it looks like, but it's also pretty linear sometimes. Stomp knee, mill a bunch, summon a JD, you know? So Falcon is pure Light Sworn. And also they're kind of easy to shut down and easy to side against, whereas Falcon's pretty easy to shut down on. He has bad defensive options, okay? All right. So Ice Climbers are going to be zombies for a few reasons. Number one, they can hit really hard, but they play noticeably different than the other combo decks. And also, they used to be way more dominant. So that's kind of similar to how like zombies were stronger before Edison when they had more of the cards not limited, basically. And also, just zombies are basically the Brio deck. Like every deck runs Brionic, but zombies are kind of the Brio deck and, Ice Barrier, so Ice Climbers. We got Pikachu next. Pikachu is going to be quick draw. Reason number one being it can do a lot of really cool combos, but it often has to invest a lot and it needs the play to work, basically. But again, it can win, really fun to play, and also pretty underrepresented. Another similarity is that kind of like how Pikachu and Fox have the same up smash, Quick Draw and Vayu both run Hamster Raikou Caius, so there's that similarity. Moving on to Samus. Samus is going to be hero beat. Reason number one, strong fundamentals. So like 1900 normal summons, that's like Samus having strong normals in Smash. And Samus wants to space perfectly and punish things, which is kind of like Gemini beat in Hero Blast. Relatively tanky deck due to back row, whereas Samus is like a tanky character. Feels slower than other top tiers while being fast enough. And then definitely can win a local played by an experienced player, you know? That type of like the definition of upper mid tier. Yoshi, going to be fairies, like pure fairies. Reason number one, no one really played the deck back in the day, but it could definitely win. It requires more precision than some other decks in that you need like 4 fairies engraved for Christia. Exactly 4. And then it randomly counters a lot of things just because DD Warrior Lady's good. And it also employs atypical defense built on Herald of Orange Light, which is kind of like Yoshi's parry. Ganondorf, one of the last few characters we've got, is my main. Ganondorf is Benkai OTK. Just unga bunga. It either works or it doesn't, but it hits very hard if it does. Pretty easy to stop, but it can bop you if it gets lucky. Not many tools at its disposal, so pretty similar game plan in most matchups. The final character on our list today of Melee X Edison characters is Donkey Kong. Brief shout out to Junebug, of course. But yeah, Donkey Kong's gonna be X Sabers. Reason number one, both of them don't quite have all their tools yet, but the ones that they do have are pretty good. Not yet, meaning like Project M Donkey Kong versus Melee. Both of them have a fairly linear game plan because they have limited options, but under the right circumstances, they can just destroy. Hunley is kind of like Cargo Grab in that it just randomly destroys some decks. And then Emler's Blade is like up B because it can be used on offense, or you can use it defensively, or it can turn a defensive situation into an offensive one, similar to DK's up B as shield. So, yeah. Thank you for watching. This is kind of my first quote unquote legit YouTube video where there's actually like stuff other than just me recording my hands in front of myself. So if you like this, I would definitely appreciate like likes and comments and all that. So yeah, thanks for watching and peace.